Hi, this is Rockin' Robbie SF from the ECF Forums, a store on YouTube doing part 2 of the Vivi Nova tank. Now, I've been playing around with this all week, off and on, and I have found these are really easy to re-wick. So let's take a look at how I re-wick this. And to do something different, I'm using a cotton wick. Okay, I am looking at 2 of the Nova tanks, and just to be careful with the types of juices you put in, these tanks do react to juice. As you can see, one has discolored and turned cloudy. This had some absinthe juice in it, and the other tank is how it should be, which is nice and clear. So be careful of the type of juice you put in it. Again, they do sell these with metal replacement tanks, so you won't have any problems with your juice. But if you do get the normal one with the clear polycarbon, just be aware that juices do react to it. One of my complaints about these tanks was the connectors, and I just want to show you a comparison, if I can get up close, between a this is a SmokeTech dual coil connector and the Nova connector. And as you can see, there's a bit of a quality difference. The SmokeTech is nice and polished, and the Nova one, it's a little bit, seems to have a little bit of a something sticking out here, which is the positive post. And I'll link a video to what Pirate Belay did, is he filed this down to make a better connection, and he said that also improved the draw. I haven't done that yet, but I got 2 tanks, this one and this one. You can see how the positive connector kind of sticks out. So that's the quality issue I'm talking about with the connections. Now, one good thing about these tanks is the ability to replace the coil. And I've replaced that one. Let me just do the fresh one. I'll replace this one. So this is a normal coil. Take off the cap. Screw this. Should screw this first. And just to do something different, I thought I would try this with a cotton wick. Now, a cotton wick you have to be careful with because they will burn. And this is a piece of cotton wick I've boiled. This is what I've had from the beeswax place. Now, if you try cotton wick, you should get it, this is for candles, but it's 100% cotton, it's unprimed, and it's lead-free. So it's just pretty much raw cotton. And it's really cheap. I got 10 yards of this for like $5. The shipping cost as much as the wick itself. But since this wasn't made for human consumption, I went ahead and I boiled this wick. Boil it for, if you use cotton, 5 to 10 minutes just to get out all the impurities. And I've also heard people cook the wick. Maybe put it on a cookie sheet and put it in the oven after you boil it to dry it out and to get it nice and broiled. This has been dried out, bone dry, over 24 hours. I've waited. And changing this wick is fairly easy. First we want to pull off this bottom ring. And I saw a video where some guy did it with his fingernails, and you must have fingernails of titanium to do that. But I think you're probably going to want some small pair of pliers or something to get in there and to pull this out. And this is the positive connection, this little bit here, and it's separated from the outer threads, which are the negative, with this little bit of plastic, which should pop right out. Let's pull out the thread. Can you see the, I don't know if you can see it, but there's the one of the wires to the wick. It's right there. That's the positive wire. And so let's pull this wick out. And now maybe this will come out a little easier. Yep, pops right out. And you can see there's a little discoloration there from the heat of the wick. But to put this together, it's fairly easy. We get your thread. Let me cut a shorter piece. I don't need all this. Let's cut it right about there. And you get your wire. I'm using 32 gauge canthal. And I want to wrap it. I'm using a little pin to wrap it tight and close, but not so the coils touch. If the coils touch, you may get dry spots or sections of the coil that don't glow red. I'm going to unwrap this. So, just to get these nice tight coils here. And then pull your pin out. This wire's a little long, but that's fine. So we have these two wires and we want to run them through the base. Get it through the slots on the side. I should just push right down. Now I've seen one person have one of the wires on the outside and just wrapping the negative coil or negative wire around the outer base. And I've tried that and it didn't really work for me, but if it works for you, that's fine. I mean, it's a good way to keep the positive and negative wires separate. One thing that you need to be aware of is as they come down through the center, you don't want them to twist and come in contact with each other, because that will not work for you. And also the one wire that will become your negative, you don't want to have touch the side. So you do want to pull these tight, and you want to make sure they're separated. And then you take the little rubber stopper that separates positive and negative and pull it down one wire. So what we'll have is one wire touching the threads for the outer connection and one wire that touches the center post for the negative connection. And again, make sure they're separated, make sure they don't touch on the inside. And then the center post, which is a positive connection, should just fit right in there. And you should just, oops, fit it in with this little pointy side down. Pointy side down. fit in there. And it should be sandwiched between one wire and the rubber gasket. And the other wire should be on the other side of the gasket, touching the threads. And then it's just a matter of cutting the wires, or if you twist it, should come right off. Gives you a nice tight fit. And there I have a Vivi Nova with a cotton wick. Let's zoom out, because I'm going to test it on the Provari. But before I do that, cotton will burn, and so you always want to keep this wick wet. You're never going to be able to dry burn this, so you'll never see cotton wicks sold commercially. But I do, even when I test the ohms, I want to make sure this cotton wick is wet so it won't burn. I'm just going to wet it a little bit, just so I don't char the cotton. So let's test the ohms. Stick it on the base. Again, even though this is a 510 connection, for some reason this doesn't want to screw in as a 510. So you do need this base to test your coil. Let's see what we have here. Oops, I got an E1 error. Okay, I was getting an E1 error because I had the Provari at 6 volts. Silly me. So I'll, this is the coil. It's going to show the atomizer now. 1.8. So I got this really low ohms. And these wicks I've gotten really wet. And so it does fire, but I don't want it dry because this will burn the cotton. But it seems to be going pretty well. So then it's just a matter of putting this together, putting the cap back on, the tank back on. You could cut these wicks to whatever length you want. Let me get the, that was a cloudy tank. Let me get the uncloudy tank. And I haven't had any problems leaking with this. And let's get some juice. Going with the old ectoplasma. You can see this is extremely easy to fill. And pop the cap back on, and we have a cotton coil wick. Now, testing this out with the cotton wick. Remember, it was 1.8 ohms readout. I'm using this at 4 volts. What a difference it makes. Flavor improvement is tremendous. And if you do experiment with cotton wicks, you got to make sure always to keep it wet. You're not going to be able to dry burn this, but with how easy it is to change the wick, if the wick ever crusts up or you need to replace it, you're just going to re-wick it. The difference is night and day between the little Nova wicks you get in the package and the a re-wick thing. And you can re-wick with, you know, your normal silicone wicks. You could try out stainless steel wicks, give a try out with the cotton wick. I really recommend the one that I got, the candle wick, but I've heard people use gauze, 100% cotton gauze, that they'll have broken apart and braided tightly and use that as a wick, and they claim, I've tried it and it didn't work for me because I'm not a good braider, and it was a little, they fell apart for me. But you know, you can try out different things, and this is kind of a modder's dreams. If you don't mind fiddling with your devices, you can do a whole lot with the tank. I gotta say, this cotton wick is really, I'm really sold on it. But again, remember to boil the cotton wick before you use it. And also, I don't know if I mentioned the cantha wire. Whenever you get a wire, go ahead and run a flame under it, just in case there's any machine oil or any crud on it, just to burn that off and wash it down. But yeah, try that out if you like doing that type of fiddly thing with your device. And so, I guess final conclusions on this. As I said in my last video, I'm not sold on the quality of this. I think those bottom connectors could be a little bit smoother, or nicely designed. Having to file it down to make a good connection or to get rid of an airy draw seems to be a downer. The heads that come with these in the little shrink wrap, with the 4 long wicks and the one that rests on top of the coil, don't seem to be performing that well for me. When I first started, I thought it was okay when I did the initial review, but as I kept vaping with it, it just kept getting worse and worse. So modding it, however, I really like it. Got to be aware of what juices you put in your tank. Final impressions, do I recommend this? I have to give it a yes and a no. Yes, if you like fiddling with your devices, if you like changing wicks, if you like doing that type of thing, this thing is really, I mean, it's easier to change the wicks, in my opinion, than it is to Stardust and to recoil them. You can buy them separately. But out of the package, I don't think it's a very good device for first-timers or people that don't like fiddling with things. I have heard that Gotvapes is ordering a whole new set of redesigned heads, which may have improved the problem. I would, if you don't like fiddling, I would wait and see what other reviewers say on this second generation of changeable heads. I'm still really like the design. I think this is the future of the top coil or the bottom coil designs, is to have the replaceable heads, because they're only going to last as long as the wick. So no matter how fancy you make the tanks around it, whether it's the Kryptonite or the 3 milliliter Phoenix, or even the Phoenix themselves, although they're pretty cheap. But if you put a lot of resources into the tank, it's only going to last as long as the wicks, unless you can replace them. And the easier you make it so you can replace the wicks, the more accessible these types of devices are going to be. So right now, unless you like fiddling, unless you like changing the wicks, and that means getting a supply of wick material, of wire material, and doing all that type of research, and the hand-eye coordination, unless you like doing that, I would stay away from these until they improve them, which I am sure they will. And I have to say again, I think this is going to be the future of tanks, of the C3, C2 type tanks, of the bottom coil, top coil tanks, is to make them so that you can change the heads somehow. I don't know. But if you do like re-wicking, try cotton. Might be surprised. Live long and vape.